Hello, Jonathan Martis here with North Pacific Real Estate. I'm a real estate broker in the Seattle area. Today I wanted to talk about earnest money and what is earnest money and how does it relate to the transaction when you're purchasing a house. Earnest money in relation to the real estate transaction is important to know because it'll help you understand how it contributes to the process and where that money goes when you're purchasing a home. Earnest money is a way to show good faith towards the seller that you're interested in purchasing the home. This is important because it shows the seller that you're serious, and the more earnest money you put, the more serious the seller will believe that you are. Now, a typical amount of earnest money that is put towards the purchase of a house is between 1 and 2%. But there's no specific number that has to be added or put towards the home. Your agent will best advise what they think you should put. Earnest money can be lost during the transaction or forfeited if you back out of the transaction without a valid reason per the contract. So for example, let's say your offer includes a financing contingency. This is very common. What this means is you're going to be getting a loan, and if you cannot get finance for the loan, if you, let's say, lose your job or something else happens and you are not able to be approved for that loan, the financing contingency, what it allows you to do is it allows you to get your earnest money back if the transaction gets canceled. Now, if you did not have a financing contingency, then that means you're not relying on a loan or you're not including that in there, even though you should include it in the contract. You don't have that safeguard of the financing contingency to get your earnest money back. Let me give you an example of a situation I had when I was selling someone's house. I listed the house, we went into contract with the buyer, and the seller accepted an offer, and for no valid reason, 10 days before we were going to close on the home, the buyer backed out. And I continued to ask what was the reason for them backing out to see if there was any way for them to get their earnest money back or if there's anything in the contract that would allow them to back out. They didn't give us any reason, and so they forfeited the $10,000 that they put towards the home as earnest money. This is a way to kind of keep the buyer into the transaction, but keep in mind that a buyer cannot be forced to purchase a house. They would lose their earnest money. That's essentially what would happen. But as a broker, if I'm representing the seller, one thing I want to be aware of is that I want to see what the earnest money amount is, because if it's $100, right, then that's easy to walk away from. But if it's $10,000 or $20,000, then that's a lot harder to walk away from. So odds are the buyer will try to do what they can to purchase that house. And this is something important to know when you're buying a place as well. You want to put forward an amount of money that you feel is not too high to where you feel stretched, but that you feel that it's enough to show the seller that you're serious. So when you get to the closing table, which is typically about 30 days after you go into contract on the home, that earnest money will go towards your closing costs. So let's say your earnest money was $10,000 and your closing costs are $20,000. That $10,000 would be a credit towards your closing costs, which means that the amount of money you'd have to come up with at the closing table is $10,000 on top of the $10,000 you already put towards earnest money, for a total of $20,000. Sometimes buyers get confused about this. The earnest money is going towards what you would pay at closing, and this is important to know because it is going to show as a credit on the closing statement when you are signing documents with escrow. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, do feel free to let me know, and keep an eye out for future videos that I post. Thank you again for watching, and have a good day.